So Natalie Sanandaji is a survivor of the Nova Music Festival and joins us live. Natalie, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. It's a very somber milestone. Exactly 2 years later, what does this day symbolize for you?
For me, this day is just another reason, another driving force why I have to keep speaking out. When I started interviewing just 3 days after the attacks, I never would have imagined that 2 years later we would still have hostages in Gaza, and that 2 years later there would still be so many people who either deny the attacks ever happened or still think that they were justified. And seeing the world's response to what happened on October 7th, even 2 years later, and seeing the fact that we still have hostages in Gaza just reminds me why I have to continue speaking on their behalf.
And I'm sure watching these videos, such brutal reminders, very triggering. How has your life changed over these past 2 years?
Every single day of these past 2 years has been filled with speaking out on behalf of those who no longer have a voice. And just 2 weeks ago, I spoke to someone who said to me, I heard that all the hostages were treated nicely and were brought home safely. And I looked at this person and I said, do you consider a mother and her two babies coming home in coffins, being treated nicely and brought home safely? And comments like that just remind me why I have to continue being an advocate for them, being an advocate for all those who don't have a voice anymore.
Absolutely. Natalie, what do you remember most about that day 2 years ago?
What I remember most, I think something I don't get to mention a lot is in between all the chaos, in between all the shooting and people falling and dying right in front of me, I remember the small moments of people who are at the festival taking care of each other and trying to protect each other, not leaving each other behind, lifting people up when they fell down, sharing what little water we had with each other. And I think about those moments so much because I think about how many of those people didn't survive and how many of those people I spent their last moments with them and they spent their last moments trying to help me and take care of me.
And you're so right. I mean, I think for so many people, it's hard to imagine the reality of being there. You were there, you were on the ground. Do you remember what was going through your head? Were you even able to process what was happening?
I wasn't able to process, even when my mom called me at 8 a.m. Israel time, it was 1 a.m. New York time, because she saw what happened on the news. I was so disassociated, and my only thought was to not worry her because there was nothing she could do for me all the way from New York, that I felt that I had to lie to her and not tell her where I am. And I I think especially throughout all the running, everyone always asks how I knew what decisions to make to save my life. And the answer is that none of us knew what decisions to make. Every decision we made while running from Hamas, they were all choiceless choices. And I just remember throughout the running, hoping that I would make it back home to my mom. And, since October 7th, I've met so many parents who lost their kids on that day. And today, especially, I'm thinking about all of them and sending out my love to all of them because they're never going to be able to hug their kids again. And that's why I continue speaking, to speak out on their behalf and to share the truth of what happened.
Yeah, they'll never be made whole. Natalie, politicians in the U.S. seem to mostly be united when it comes to this peace deal and bringing home the remaining hostages. Earlier, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries spoke about the urgency. I'd like to listen to some of what he said.
2 years later, it's incredibly important that every single hostage is returned and returned at the same time. It's important that we restore the ceasefire that Donald Trump inherited and that was broken in a matter of weeks during the Trump presidency. It's important that the devastation in Gaza end and that we surge humanitarian assistance into Gaza to provide relief to Palestinian civilians who for 2 years have been in harm's way in a theater of war through no fault of their own.
Natalie, this is a 20-point peace proposal. Are you confident it will be accepted?
My only hope is that it will be accepted, that all the hostages will come home, and that Hamas will be eradicated for the sake of not just the people in Israel, but for the sake of all the people in Gaza who deserve a better future.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.